tell me all about tapping. I had I know very little about it. I don't know if I wrote you, but I think the first time I ever experienced it was in a Qigong class.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a yoga therapist who gave I think a 4-week workshop on pain relief, yoga therapy for pain, and she incorporated some tapping. But I know it's used outside of, yoga and different sort of, movement programs. It's used for, I think, people with PTSD. So
Yeah.
tell me about, what you know about it and how and why you incorporate it.
Yeah. So that's a great question. I have been working with, so I've been tapping for a while, but to speak to your point about how you were experiencing it in yoga and Qigong and all of those arenas, I took shiatsu and acupressure, where, they're talking a lot about the meridians, and it was really interesting to hear. I had learned more of the Western medicine side, which I'll get into, but it was really cool to learn that all of this stuff is also applied in similar but different-ish ways for the Eastern medicine tracks also. Because, for example, we have our stomach meridian so tapping in terms of, I'll talk about full body tapping, but specifically when we do it right under the collarbone, you've got your stomach meridian working right through that area. And then you've got, gosh, I want to say liver, but I could be wrong. But you definitely have the stomach meridian there. So the way that kind of the Eastern medicine tracks use tapping is typically following the meridians. And I think you've probably heard me in class say, we always tap going down the inside of the arm and up the outside of the arm. And that is also to follow the meridians, because that's just kind of the natural flow of the meridians, and then down the outside of the legs and up the inside of the legs, in terms of the energy flow of the meridians through your body. So that is more, pulling that into the classes is more kind of the Eastern medicine track. But that full body tapping we do, in general, it does a few things. So the more that we can stimulate our senses, the more information that our body can send to our brain about our environment or about what's internally going on inside of us, which is called interoception. Is my stomach feeling weird? Is my leg hurting? And then the awareness of that, the immediate space around us, which is something called kinesthetic awareness. So the more we can heighten and increase all of that information coming in, whether it's kind of from the outside in our immediate space around us or from the inside of our body, the more efficient movement and motor output we can then create. So working with the senses, whether it's interoceptive and doing that body scan that we always start with in the beginning of class, or it's the body tapping and waking the body up. I mean, I'm curious what you think when we do the body tapping and maybe we just do it on one arm. Do you notice a difference?
Oh, yeah. It's activated. It's like alive and tingly.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So the more information we can give our brain about our bodies, the better our movement can be in a lot of different ways, because our proprioception is increased, because there's more signals going to the brain, because we're just more aware of our limbs and what's going on. And so all of that translates to a more efficient motor output, which just means your day-to-day movement. It might be easier, stronger, smoother, less painful, less sticky, whatever it is that you're doing in your day-to-day movement. Mm-hmm. So the tapping increases that awareness and therefore increases our proprioception. It also is very calming for the nervous system. So especially in this world right now, most of us are living in what we call our sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight nervous system, where the blood pressure is increased, the heart rate is increased, our breathing is more shallow, meaning we're either breathing through our neck or our upper chest. It can cause hormone imbalances. It's just this whole cascade effect of constantly living in a stressed out state, which affects everything, your digestion, your sleep, everything. That tapping helps drop you into something called your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest nervous system. So it lowers the blood pressure. It can help lower the heart rate. It helps with digestion. It can help it can help bring you into a deeper breath, into a deeper diaphragmatic breath, which helps the organs move, which helps the blood and the lymph and everything else. So yeah, it's helpful in a lot of ways of helping with proprioception and calming the nervous system down. So those are the two main reasons why I use it. Yeah, it's a practice that some people pull in daily. I pull it in daily when I can, but it's also just something really quick we can do in the mornings, or that you see I do in class. That is just an easy win for everybody, whether or not they have sensation too. Because I've gotten questions before of, well, I can't feel my legs or I can't feel certain parts of my body, but that doesn't mean that your body can't feel it, and that also doesn't mean that over time connection can't be built in that area. So it still is helpful, and it still can be helpful even if the sensation is diminished or decreased in some way.
It's interesting. It just made me think of I know several people with SMA, have you heard of spinal muscle atrophy, SMA? It's a form of, neuromuscular disease. And they have a drug out called Spinraza, which has been like phenomenal, especially for infants, who are born with SMA, have the symptoms, at birth. But the people I know, it came about later. Anyhow, I know they've taken Spinraza, and it's not as if they can walk now, because most of them use wheelchairs. But one friend talked about how he had sensations in his legs that he hasn't felt in like 20 years.
Wow.
Because he had to use a wheelchair, I think, at 10, 11 years old. And so it'd be really interesting to see if also, tapping sort of enhance that along with this, infusion that they're getting. It just popped into my mind.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll hear this episode and they'll check out some of the videos. Because, it's something you could do on your own. You don't need to, participate in a class or have a professional.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I'm also wondering if something like dry brushing would work. I mean, that stuff can also be really helpful. And we encourage, just kind of a side note, but sensory wise, there's often people where I've also gotten the question of, well, tapping or moving my legs in that kind of way really increases my neuropathic pain. Or in general, like the movement we had during our session with you really spikes my neuropathic pain. Which is hard because neuropathic pain can be debilitating, and it can be a vicious cycle of, well, the pain increases when I move and that kind of thing. But it also can be a really good sign that things are firing, the nerves are firing, they're just really confused. And instead of those nerves telling our brain, this is work, or this is what it feels like to shake a leg, or this is what it feels like to rub your hands over your feet that might be hypersensitive, it's telling your brain, whoa, this is new, and I'm going to register this as pain. So often, a lot of times what I'll do with my clients who have hypersensitive parts of their body is sometimes we'll do tapping, or I'll take like a rubber ball that has little spikes on it, gentle spikes.
Yeah.
And we'll do some stimulation with there. And there's other kinds of equipment. There's something called the Naboso mat, which also has these little rubber bumps on it just to help stimulate hands and feet. So that can also not only stimulate the body, but it can retrain the nervous system, and over time through neuroplasticity over and over, where all of a sudden the signals that are when your feet are resting on the ground, instead of sending signals of this hurts, it starts sending signals of this is safe. I'm on a safe surface. There's little bumps pressing into my feet, and we're just rewiring that system. So for the folks that have either a lack of sensation or hypersensitivity, this kind of tapping and bringing in different sensory inputs can also be really helpful. And you've probably seen at PT clinics people using rice or sand buckets, or maybe not, or using spiky objects to help retrain their nervous system when they're hypersensitive, to start sending those signals that this is safe, this isn't pain, this is safe. So yeah, there's a lot of tricks and tools you can use for that too.
Cool.
Yeah.